The day the bells rang. In Mr. Waleed's classroom, students were focused on their work. The air was filled with the quiet hum of pens scribbling on paper and the soft sound of pages turning. Everyone seemed to be deep in thought, except for one student, Rami. He had a habit of making himself the center of attention, always louder than anyone else, even when it wasn't necessary. Rami tapped his pencil on the desk repeatedly, creating an irritating rhythm that echoed throughout the room. When that got boring, he started making jokes, trying to get the other students to laugh. Even though some of them smiled politely, most of his classmates were just trying to concentrate. Rami didn't seem to notice. He laughed at his own jokes, raised his voice when talking to his friends, and constantly interrupted the quiet work atmosphere. Mr. Waleed had asked him several times to keep the noise down. "Rami, we need to focus," he'd say calmly, but Rami's negative behavior seemed unstoppable. It wasn't that he meant to disrupt the class, he just didn't think about how his behavior affected others. To him, he was just having fun. One day, Mr. Waleed entered the classroom with a small basket in his hand. He smiled at the curious looks from his students and placed the basket on his desk. Inside were tiny silver bells, one for each student. "Today, I'm giving each of you a bell," he said as he passed them out. "Whenever someone disturbs your concentration, you can ring the bell to let them know." The students exchanged puzzled glances, but Mr. Karim just smiled and continued the lesson. At first, everything was normal. Students worked on their projects and the room was peaceful. Then, just like clockwork, Rami started tapping his pencil. Ding! A bell rang from across the room. Rami looked up, surprised, and saw Khaled holding his bell in the air, looking directly at him. He shrugged it off, thinking it was just a joke, but soon after, he leaned over to whisper something to his friend Ahmed. Ding! Another bell rang, this time from Ahmed himself. Rami chuckled nervously, but then it happened again. When he laughed a bit too loudly, ding! Another bell sounded. One by one, more students started ringing their bells, each time Rami did something noisy. At first, Rami thought it was funny. He even made a game out of it, wondering how many bells he could make ring at once. But after a while, the constant ringing started to feel different. Instead of laughter or smiles, Rami saw frowns and frustrated expressions on his classmates' faces. They weren't enjoying his antics, they were annoyed. His face started to feel warm, and he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Rami had never realized just how disruptive he was being. The bells made it clear. Every time one rang, it was a reminder that he was making it hard for others to focus. His jokes and noise weren't bringing joy, they were only causing distractions. Quietly, Rami put down his pencil, stopped talking, and turned back to his project. The classroom returned to its peaceful state. The bells stopped ringing, and for the rest of the lesson, Rami focused on his work, determined not to disturb anyone else. At the end of class, as the students packed up their things, Mr. Waleed walked over to Rami. He gave him a gentle pat on the shoulder and smiled. "It's great to see you focused today, Rami. I knew you had it in you." Rami smiled back, a bit embarrassed but also relieved. From that day on, he made sure to be more mindful of his behavior in class. He realized that being the loudest in the room didn't make him popular, it just made him noisy. And being considerate of others made the classroom a better place for everyone. This story was created just for you by your English teacher, Mr. Ahmad Khalil.